24 minutes before 10 o'clock. Thank you for tuning in this Friday morning. We get our news from people who put themselves where the news is happening. And whether it's an accident down the street or it's a war on the other side of the planet, it is always amazing to me that the people who bring us the news do it with integrity and make sure that history in the future, at least when we look back on the history of today, it is accurate. And it is with that I will introduce you to our guest, whom we are so honored to have on the show. I'm shy of calling myself a news junkie. Here's why. Because I used to think I was a news junkie. In fact, I was a news junkie. And then I realized that, you know, the world spins fine on her own. It doesn't really need me to pay that close of attention to it. It was really, you know, I don't know. Sometimes it takes its toll on you. But still, I still find myself attracted to the news in certain ways. And to keep my finger on the pulse of what's going on in this planet requires me to turn on the TV or the radio and listen to and watch the people who really are the ones making that difference. Martin Fletcher is on the phone. I know you know his name. He is, among other things, a foreign correspondent and bureau chief for NBC. He has won 5 Emmy Awards. He was awarded the Citation of Excellence from the Overseas Press Club of America for his coverage of the first Palestinian uprising in 1998, for his coverage of Bosnia, and for the second Palestinian uprising in 2001. He was named Cameraman of the Year by the British Royal Society of Television. He's the recipient of the Jewish National Book Award. He's a best-selling author, and the book he's talking about this morning is The War Reporter. It is a novel, but he's one of the few people on this planet who could really write this book from a knowledgeable point of view. Martin Fletcher, I'm sorry it was such a long introduction, but there was no way I could introduce somebody I admire so much without having a few extra words. Good morning, sir.
Good morning, Larry. Thank you very much. I'm here to say the world does need you.
Well, not every day. I say there's some days I just say, you know what? I don't want to hear the news. I don't want to do anything. I just want to go to a park and watch the ducks.
Right. Me too.
So where are you right now?
Actually, I'm in New York.
And it's a good place to be if you're in the news, right? Are you still working for any of the networks?
Well, I'm doing some work for NBC. I'm working as a freelance correspondent also for PBS NewsHour Weekend, and I've been spending a lot of time in Mexico, but about 5 months of the year, so I'm doing a lot of reporting from down there for NewsHour, PBS.
When we see the news, let me ask you this, and I want to make sure we get into the book, but you're the guy who would know this. If I go on Facebook, for example, and I have a friend who lives in Iran, or in Syria, or in any of these countries that we have demonized, the people I communicate with are just normal people. They sell donuts. They raise animals, and the politics of their nation is just as confusing to them as it is to us. When you're over there, I mean, I'm on Facebook, so I'm not even close to them. So I don't know if they're putting on a charade or not. But it doesn't seem like the core of any of these countries is really bad. It's the people in them. For example, the Palestinians. I know a few Palestinians that hate what's going on. But at the same time, it seems like the governments are the ones throwing the rockets and causing all the problems.
Yeah, well, you know, I spent a career basically speaking to those people and not the leaders. You know, when I go to places, I've always, you know, NBC will say, "Can you get an interview with the Interior Minister? Can you speak to the Vice President?" I say, I don't want to speak to those people. I want to speak to the people whose lives are affected by whatever the story is that I'm covering. So I agree with you completely. I mean, it's all about the people, and the people, you know, in the many shades. Obviously, you can always find somebody who'll say anything. But it's their stories that I want to tell. And that's how I spend my time, as much as possible.
And that's why when I watch somebody like yourself or pay attention to the stories, and I love the longer ones. I mean, sound bites are okay, but I love the things that go into detail, the stuff that you've done in the past, and oh gosh, Christiana Amanpour, whatever, how you say her name?
Yeah.
When these long pieces are on, you sort of get a feeling for what's going on, and it is exactly that. It is exactly this perplexing circumstance. What was the average German thinking during World War II? Were they really on board with the whole Nazi thing, or was that just the Nazis? I don't know.
Yeah, well, I mean, as I say, that's what those are the questions I ask myself. I always ask myself the question when I'm covering a war in, wherever it is in Kosovo or Rwanda. I spend a career visiting people on the worst day of their life, telling their story. But I always wonder what happens to what happened the next day. How do you get on with the rest of your life?
Right.
Yeah. So I met a boy called Yusuf in Gaza who had been shot in the neck, and we did a story on him, and he was paralyzed, and it was a very sad story. And yet, but I got to know this kid, and I actually spent years going back and forwards telling his story over time. And this little boy who was paralyzed in bed, in the end, he went to university, he got married, now he's a father. It's amazing. And it's all about just, making the best of a lousy deal.
Wow. Is he still paralyzed?
He's paralyzed, absolutely. He's in a wheelchair, yeah.
So there was a story last week about ISIS being kicked out of some place, I guess, in Syria, and then the shop owners opened up their shops again. And I'm thinking, wow, just kick them out, they open up their shops.
Yeah, exactly.
It's just an amazing world, and yet I can't comprehend it. I mean, if I suddenly had, it has to be similar to when France was liberated from the Nazis. All of a sudden, they're gone. We can get back to life. Right?
I guess so. And by the way, my first two novels were about that subject. One set in London, one set in Germany. The end of the war's over in 1945. What did the people do? How did they rebuild their lives? I mean, that's a great question.
And that's one of the marvelous things that you do in your novel. It's not just about the people that the reporter is covering in the book, but it's also about his demons and his sensitivities in his life.
Yeah, well, that's what I wanted to do. I mean, actually, what I set out to do was write a very authentic story about what it's like to be a war correspondent. And we do go to these places in these awful times, and there is a cumulative effect of if you just see covering tragedy, eventually it's going to rub off on you to some extent. I got to say, it didn't rub off on me as much as the character Tom Lane in my book. Mm-hmm. But the bottom line is that, sure, you're a human being. You walk away and you're scarred by what you see to an extent. And the question then becomes, how do you deal with it? That's what the book was about.
And that's PTSD in today's jargon, right? That's what we call it, right?
Yeah, and it's a very real phenomenon. And the problem with journalists is that if you're what we call a first responder, you go to a scene where there's been a suicide bomb. In Israel, for instance, during the suicide bombing campaign with the Palestinians, there was about 120 suicide bombs in 4 years, and I was at the scene of at least 2/3 of them. And the effect in the end is to leave you with a certain kind of scarring, obviously. But the first responders who go to those places, the policeman, the medic, the soldier, they have a job to do. They're clearing this place, they're helping the people. Right. The journalist, who's also kind of first responder, when we go there, we just get in the way. we literally get in the way. So, we think we're doing an important job, and we probably are, but in the instant, we're getting in the way. And so when a journalist says, oh, I've got post-traumatic stress, the response for most people will be, well, don't go there then. Don't go there. So there's kind of, it's almost an illegitimate disease, because it is a disease. But
yes, it is. But there is a good reason to be there. And here's my answer to that. And I'm sure you've thought about this way before I ever did. But one of the things I fear the most is that the tail is going to wag the dog, and we are the dog responding to some tail somewhere that wants us to attack a country because we believe something that's not really true. When guys like you get there and give us the real deal, mm-hmm. then the rest of the country says to our government, wait a minute, what are we doing? Are you sure this is what we should be doing? Or if somebody starts to pervert, is that the good word? Mm-hmm. The news, so that we're being manipulated to thinking something else, it is guys like you who show us what the real story is.
Well, we certainly try and hope so. And there's obviously a very important example of the weapons of mass destruction in Iraq. The reporting helped the government go to war, and the reporting was dead wrong in many cases, in very prominent cases.
That's yeah.
And so obviously the journalists who were writing at the time, I imagine, were writing from the best of their knowledge, but it was wrong. And that is we have to dance between the raindrops when we're on stories, trying to say what things are like and what's happening, and yet not being a tool of either side.
Well, again,
if you're a political reporter, that's a daily danger. If you're the kind of reporter I am, who will really, all I really want to do is go to a place and find the people and tell their story. You know, so then, as far as I'm concerned, the cards can fall where they may. I just want to be accurate and tell the real people's story.
And you keep objectivity in the book, but then you have that human element, the love interest. You have Nina, both professional and personal.
I like Nina.
Yes.
You know, I believe in love, and I truly, and I think that ultimately, with all these problems we're dealing with, in the end, it's the relationships between people that, you know, that save you. I always remember, I think it was Tina Turner. Tina was, you know, she was suffering domestic abuse, and people said to her, "So, you know, did you go to the psychologist?" She said, "I didn't go to the psychologist. I had my friends." And you know, that's very important. So human relationships is what it's all about, and that's why I wrote that whole. I mean, for me, the book actually was a love story.
Yes.
That, you know, you had the political backstory, you had the journalism, but it was a relationship between Tom and Nina that saved them both, and it was all about, for me, building up to that, you know, the personal drama of love and how love helps you overcome post-traumatic stress or anything else you have. And I believe that.
Do you know, you're saying something that I wanted to just point something out. Robin and I do music when we're not doing a radio show. And we basically play music for nursing homes. We're not trying to, I just don't want to paint the wrong picture. But here's the point. We play the song Lili Marlene.
Yeah.
And a lot of times there are some guys in these nursing homes that are World War II vets. And inevitably, Martin, the older men, the World War II men, will cry when they hear Lili Marlene.
Yeah.
And if they can tell you their story, and it could be an old German guy, he might have been a Nazi in his younger days, I don't know, or an older American soldier or vet. I mean, they will tell you that song meant so much to them. There was something romantic about that horrible experience for them. Anyway, there was something romantic. I don't know.
Yeah, but I think it's true, isn't it? At the heart of the human condition, you know, in our hearts, it's all about ultimately how we relate to the person we love or the person we're with.
Yeah.
And you know, and that's the lesson I learned. I learned that lesson, you know, I wouldn't say the hard way, because I didn't suffer in the way that the people I wrote about suffered, but I saw so much of it everywhere around the world, and it was always the question, so what do you do the next day? I remember a guy in Somalia whose daughter died of starvation in his arms while we were filming him. And I went with him, and I said, so, you know, what are you going to do? What do you want to do? And he said, well, you know, my wife just died of starvation. This is my third child to die of starvation. You know, you actually die of disease related to starvation. And so I said, so what are you going to do? And he said to me, I just want to go home and sit under the tree. You know, and then he said, and find a wife and grow some food. And really, that's really all we need to do, isn't it?
Wow.
Is go sit under a tree, find a wife, and grow some food. And we make our life so complicated.
Wow, that's an awesome observation. That's all I want to do, too.
Yeah, me too.
Martin, can we ask you to hang on? We have to do a commercial break, and we'll be right back. The book is called The War Reporter. We really haven't been fair to the book yet. And that's because Martin has such a vast history. We just are a little bit infatuated, if you don't mind, sir.
You're a rock star to us.
Yeah, you are. So let us. And in fact, I think this is cool because we can talk to you about the things that normal interviewers would talk to you about, which we've just done. We probably didn't ask any original questions yet. Not that we will in the second. Not that we will in the second half, but. The second half, we want to focus more on the story itself that you've crafted, and you are a very, very talented storyteller.
Very talented.
By the way. Martin Fletcher, again, when we come back, this is WOCA.
The weather is brought to you by myfwc.com. Safe boating is no accident. Sunshine mixed with clouds and breezy today with a shower in spots along the coast, the high 82 to 86. Partly cloudy tonight with lows in the mid-60s inland, low 70s along the coast. Times of sun and clouds and breezy tomorrow with a shower in spots, especially during the afternoon hours over the interior areas, the high 83 to 87. For Sunday, clouds and sun with a passing shower, high 83 to 87. From the Florida Weather Center, I'm meteorologist Joe Lundberg.
Hello, gorgeous.
Hi, this is Becky at Hello Gorgeous Salon. Summer's almost over and fall's just around the corner. It's time to get that new look started. Let's get rid of those sun-damaged ends and faded out color and get into something rich and vibrant. Humidity is not your hair's friend. It causes your hair to capture moisture and leaves it looking dry and unhealthy. Hello Gorgeous is a certified Brazilian blowout salon. We can tame those locks, leaving your hair healthy and shiny with a Brazilian smoothing treatment. And whether you're going on a job interview or out on a date, your hands do a lot of talking. Manicures are a must. Hello Gorgeous is a full-service salon, so let us help you make a great first impression. Call us today to set your appointment at Hello Gorgeous. Our number is 352-351-5358. Again, that's 352-351-5358. Hello Gorgeous is conveniently located in the heart of downtown Ocala, right next to the historic Marion Theater.
Hello, gorgeous.
If you're anything like I was, the thought of getting older was the last thing on your mind. But here we are. For me, it started slowly. The lack of energy, never being in the mood, and when I was, I could never perform at my best. I tried the pills and other treatments with minimal results, and all but given up on my sex life. Then, I found the doctors at New Male Medical Center. Wow, they made a new male out of me. Feel like I'm 25 again. I have renewed vigor, so much more energy, and no longer worry about my performance. New Male treated me like my situation was one of a kind, with a custom treatment plan that really works. I feel great. They can create one for you too. It does not matter if you suffer from low testosterone, erectile dysfunction, or just want to last longer. New Male will help you.
Call New Male Medical Center today at 352-404-4779. 352-404-4779. That's 352-404-4779. It will change your life. 352-404-4779.
All right, thank you for waiting through the break. Martin Fletcher is on the phone with us. Did I ask him where he is? He's in New York.
Yes,
You're in New York,
City.
right, Martin? The book is called The War Reporter, and it is a novel. Can I read a piece, Martin? Are you okay with that?
Yeah, please do. I'm sure you do a better job than me.
No, because you've got a beautiful voice. But I want to. Just if you don't understand that Martin Fletcher has written a wonderful story, then you will just with this one passage. It is called The War Reporter, but it is not what you would have seen on CNN or NBC, whatever. Here's what I'm going to read. This is from the book. He kissed her neck and she shivered. Tom? Yes? Do you think about it sometimes? It? You know. He sighed. Put it this way, sometimes I don't think about it. As they lay quietly in the dark, Nina felt her eyes heat and a tear form, and it traveled slowly down her cheek, followed by another until her tears tickled Tom's hand, and he held her while she cried. Finally she said, I used to cry a lot. It made me sick. I would cry and then be sick. Can I tell you something? Yes. I haven't told anyone this before. If not me, who? She fell silent, and Tom waited, listening to her breathing, and gently kissed her neck again.
Wow.
I don't give anything away by reading that little piece. But you get a sense. You get a sense of the man that is the writer. That is Martin Fletcher. I mean, this kind of shows us a little bit about you that we couldn't tell in those CNN, and how do I keep seeing CNN? The NBC reports. Mm-hmm. So,
well, that's a great passage. Thank you.
So, as you're writing these, did I just read something that you witnessed? Did I read something that was totally in your mind?
I can't say, to be honest. To be honest, I was quite moved. I don't even remember writing it, actually. I got to reread the book. That whole. Look, what can I say? I mean, it's a very emotional. I mean, it's very real, isn't it? I guess what you get out of that is that that's very real, and I think that's what my reporting and my life and everything brings me to, trying to write as authentically as possible. I think it does come out there that emotions. Look, it's all about emotions, isn't it? When you're telling a story on TV, it's about the people and it's about the emotions. And then when you're writing fiction, I do anyway. I want it to be as real as possible. And so, I guess it does come from my life. But I also believe that when you write a book, especially a novel, in one sense, the author is putting everything on the table, on the page. And if it's not real and authentic, then why bother? Why do it?
Have you ever seen those things that children buy? They're little. They look like pills. You buy them in the toy store, and if you drop them in the bathtub in the water, they'll become dinosaurs or elephants. Have you ever seen those things? Well, do you know there are those that work really, really well, and there are those that don't work very well at all. There are those that you put a little drop of water on them, and they blossom into these gigantic, beautiful creatures. And there are others that are probably made cheaper, and you put a drop of water on them, and they pretty much stay flat in a pill.
Yeah.
Okay. Well, Robert and I talked to a lot of authors and a lot of novelists. And when you read a book that is the cheaper pill, to use my analogy, it doesn't come to life. You're opening the book and reading the words is like putting water on that pill or that little thing, and it doesn't come to life. Yours is one of those, when the water hits it, it just blossoms. When you open up the book and your eyes start to read the words, it becomes this creature. It comes to life. And I don't know how you do that. I don't know how one writer does it and another writer doesn't, but you do it, and you must have. I don't know if it comes naturally, if you went to school for that, but you've accomplished it.
Well, thank you very much. And if anyone's in the audience who wants to write and says, well, how do you do that? I mean, I don't know how I do that, but I can tell you this: I wrote loads of books that didn't get published, and it's hard work, you know. I mean, also the simpler the writing is, probably the harder it is to do it. You know, Molière famously said, where somebody said, "So how was your work day today?" And he said, "Well, in the morning I put in a comma, and in the afternoon I took it out."
That's kind of funny. That's funny.
It's a lot of work. It's a hard work, to be honest. It's wonderful work.
You've got an ultra great balance in your book too. I mean, your character is doing a documentary and having to do a lot of research on a really, really bad killer, yet you keep all things in perspective.
Yeah, again, thank you. You know, when the research that Tom Lane does in the book, as I said before, I think I wanted the whole book to be as authentic as possible, and the whole political background is very real. So when Tom Lane goes off to do his documentary in Belgrade and begins his research, and then gets into so much trouble on the way, well, I went to Belgrade and I did the same research. I didn't get into the trouble he got into, but you know, all the things he did and all the information he found out, I did that in real life. So you had this sort of the real life Martin Fletcher being the researcher for the fictional Tom Lane. So it was very real. I mean, the whole political backstory is real.
The publicist sent me questions, and the last one is to ask you about Brian Williams. I don't see any reason to ask you. I don't see any reason to ask you about Brian Williams.
Yes.
Martin, thank you so much for. I don't see any reason.
Thank you for that.
I don't see any reason to ask that question.
No.
I hope it's okay.
No.
I have a copy of the book here. You will love this one. Call me if you want the copy that was sent to us. It's yours for free. 622-9622. But the rest of us have to go buy it, including me. I'll get the Kindle version, probably. Martin, do you have a website?
I do, martinfletcher.net.
Easy enough, martinfletcher.net. And I'm sure it's on Amazon and all the other booksellers, am I right?
Yes, it is, yep.
Martin, thank you so much for being on the air. It truly has been an honor, and you are a very talented author. Thank you so much.
Thank you, Larry. Thank you, Robin, very much indeed.
That was good stuff. We have somebody calling in for the book, so let me click on that. We'll take that call off the air. Okay. We'll be right back. Thank you, Martin.
Broadcasting from the Paddock Mall Studios, this is WOCA, Ocala, Gainesville, The Villages, 1370 AM, 96.3 FM, The Source.
Fox News Radio, I'm Lilian Wu. The field of major Democratic candidates dropping to 3 as former Rhode Island Governor Lincoln Chafee bows out.
As you may know, I've been campaigning on a platform of prosperity through peace. But after much thought, I have